the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could I have the roll, please?
Member Fowler? Member Fowler?
Here.
Member Pittman?
Here.
Reynolds?
Here.
Member Brandt?
Here.
Member Thompson?
Here.
Advisory Member C?
Here.
Advisory Member Haynes?
Here.
Advisory Member Rothart? Advisory Member Grover?
Thank you. For the sake of this, we had this meeting postponed from last week with the wonderful power outage that we're all facing at this time. With that, this meeting for me personally was scheduled between two meetings, and so I have already let Member Pittman know that at 40 after, I will be departing, so if we are not done by then, I will be gracefully exiting stage right, or my wife will have my neck, and I don't want that to happen. So with that, we're going to, if the committee is okay, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, and then presentations in the business, and with everything else should be fine. At this time, we'd like to open up to hear individuals on non-agenda items. If you wish to speak, please fill out I think it's the blue slip, and turn it in, and we'll hear what you have to say. Do we have any slips so far?
Chairperson, we have Amber Moran.
I just wanted to do an update on what the Oroville Chamber's done under the SBF contract for the third quarter. And so we disseminate information for tourism through our website, visitoroville.com, and orovillechamber.com, through blogs, emails, billboards, and social media. In the third quarter, we really promoted the 4th of July fireworks, the Salmon Festival, and the Feather River Fish Hatchery. And we're planning for the next 3 months to really focus on the Parade of Lights, holiday events, lodging options, dining options, and museums in Oroville, along with updating the Green Line and walking tour brochures, and looking into doing a visitor guide to hand out to tourists. And I can give you a quick update. Compared to the first quarter, a lot of our analytics have gone up a great amount. So since the first quarter, our Visit Oroville website launched, so we've had an increase in over 3,000 visits to our websites and over 3,500 page views to our websites. And then we share all these events through social media. So on Facebook, we've gotten 150 more followers. Our reach has increased by over 10,000. And our impressions have increased by over 33,000. Then Instagram, our reach has increased to over 1,500. Any questions? Just wanted to give a quick update.
Quick question.
Yeah.
In terms of, what can you describe the population that's inquiring about?
So.
In just kind of general terms, who's looking at us? Who's looking at us?
So it's actually a lot of the Bay Area and Sacramento area, according to the website analytics, and Fresno area. And then we do get some random ones just from visitors coming from out of town. We've had visitors from Germany, Sweden, Canada, and a lot of the visitors are looking into hiking or specifics like the dam, stuff like that.
Thank you.
Very high.
Up bike riding and off-road biking.
Biking's getting a little more up there this year compared to the last 2 years, but it's way below the hiking interest in Oroville.
And paddleboarding?
Paddleboarding, the interest is there, but mostly in the summer months. So like a lot of our visitors are kind of like in the elderly range, so we get a lot of visitors who come to the RV parks and that kind of thing, and that's why they like looking into the hiking, museums, stuff like that.
And if we had a smooth path all the way to the dam, that would help them?
Oh yes, they would be appreciative.
That's good to hear.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any
Mr.
other-
Chairperson, that's the only blue speaker card that I have.
Okay, then moving on to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion to adopt the agenda? I don't see that in the list of items needed. Do we need to do that? Where's our
To
lawyer?
do what?
Adopt the agenda, we don't need to adopt it?
Not necessarily, Mr.
All right.
I move we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
I'm sorry, who seconded it?
I did.
It says absent for a couple of these.
Yeah.
Aaron's.
Oh, sorry, I'm still catching up.
There you go.
Motion carries.
Great. Now moving on to regular business. And then again, we're going to go back to the presentations. Thank you for coming for those presentations as well. Regular business, potential options for the event of coordinator services. We have an update on this, or?
Mr. Chairperson, the staff is looking for direction on how to move forward on this. Mr. Lager has announced to staff that he will no longer be seeking this contract at the end of his current contract. Staff has thought that it would be advisable at this point to begin looking for someone else so that the institutional knowledge that Mr. Lager has will be available to that individual that takes this over. Now, there's several options of how we can move forward on this particular issue. We can funnel all of these activities through the Chamber of Commerce. We can partner with the T-BID, or I'm sorry, not the T-BID, the Downtown Business Association, or the BID, or we can look at funding some other source or through one of our organizations. So what staff is looking for is just to have a conversation with the committee and see where you would like to go with this, how we can best facilitate moving into the future and also take advantage of Mr. Lager's knowledge prior to him going and doing something different.
Great. So currently, this is a contract position, right?
Correct. It's currently funded through the SBF. A certain amount of dollars are set aside each year for marketing, and Upstate has handled the events, the Wildflower Festival, the 4th of July, the Feather Fiesta Days, the Light Parade, and the Salmon Festival. That's the one that just went by that I forgot about.
So at this point, we can either open up to contracts or just give direction in regards to.
We're looking at what would committee like to do. Mr. Lager is, as it appears, is not going to be an option.
Mm-hmm.
So for us to continue on that way, would you like us to put it out as a RFP for looking for somebody to do the same type of activities, or would you like to look at going another direction? And I think the program specialist, Ms. Daly, may be able to provide you more information on that.
Okay. First of all, before we get to the speakers that are requested here, I just want to thank Mr. Lager for his years of service. How many years did you do that, sir? Gotcha. Well, as a member of this council, thank you so much for all that you've done.
I
Yeah.
thought he had some suggestions for the future. I'd like to hear his suggestions if he has those.
Well, honestly, I would like to sit down with Jordan and maybe someone else, and we can kind of brainstorm on some different ideas on how to make this more streamlined, and that, after 9 or 10 years, you kind of get to see how things might be able to move a little smoother and more efficiently for the funding.
Great.
We can set something up.
Mr. Vice Chair Pittman?
Yeah, essentially, that was my comment, and I join with you the congratulations on the time well served. I think the nicest thing to have, for us to have to move forward, would be to have a task list assembled, because when we issued the contract, I think things changed down the line, and so it'd be nice for you folks to put together the task list that you're actually doing, so we can sit back and say, then, that to me would be the first step to look at before we move forward with any other contract and see what the possibilities are. And I don't know if the task list is all-inclusive, we should have one person do it, one contract do it, or split it up, or whatever the case may be. So I think the task list would be the first thing to start with. Just my suggestion.
Thank you. Chair, Member Reynolds?
Thank you. For this type of contract, are there any special qualifications or licensing that is required?
a city business license, but other than that, I'm unaware of any
Just really
particular.
anybody
We
can-
would want to see a track record or a history of knowing how to
Yes.
promote these types
Thank
of
you.
events from any potential bidders or
Okay.
new folks into this field.
Great, that's what I was getting at. I just don't want somebody to raise their hand and say, I'll do it, and, you know, here we are. And I would really appreciate your input, Mr. Lugger. Thank you.
Yeah, if I could comment. Upstate Community Enhancement Foundation, being a 501c3 nonprofit, opens up many opportunities for funding and for matching funds and donations. So I would highly suggest that whatever entity comes into that position, they are a 501c3 or acting under an umbrella of one, so they can take advantage of that. It just plays it much better for all parties involved. And I'd be more than happy to do kind of a debriefing and creating exactly what's happening. And then, honestly, there's some things that are perhaps overlapping, so might be able to save some effort on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Member Fowler?
Ray, thank you very much for all your hard work. You've done a great job over the years, almost a decade. I would like to see, I know the BID is doing a great job, a lot of new people doing good work. The chamber continues to do good work. There's probably some overlap and cooperation that can happen. So Ray, your response to that partnership and/or other suggestions is greatly appreciated.
Yeah, and if I'm going to throw my own 2 cents in there, I know that the chamber already does a lot of work with all these, and so I think, I'm not sure, but from my understanding, they might be open to handling some of this, and so I would at least like to see some kind of proposal from the chamber, but I'm not quite sure if just closing it off to just look at them would be the right option, so.
Mr. Chairman, I think from staff's perspective, what we're hearing is that we need to develop a task list. We need to meet with Ray and get Ray's input on that. And I think we also need to take advantage of Ray's knowledge and experience and have Ray help us select who's going to be our successor in this area. I think once we establish the task list, after we meet with Ray, we see what all of those things are and suggestions may be, is that we return to the next quarterly meeting with a request for proposal that we can put out to everyone. And then at the following one, so we're talking 6 months down the road, a selection can be made as to who will be Ray's successor.
Yeah, and I think that at a minimum, the next quarterly should at least have the RFP.
Right, the job duties, or what our expectations are, what we're looking for. That way we can put it out for after the next successor agency, or I'm sorry, the next SBF meeting, and advertise it, see who all responds, evaluate those and bring them back. So I think at the next meeting, what we'll do is, if it's good with the committee, is have a meeting with, prior to that with Ray, establish our task list, and then develop an RFP to bring back for your approval for release.
Yeah, and as I'm sure we all are on the same page, but wanting to have the successor in place months in advance before the contract terminates.
Yes, sir. Well, what we could do is, if you wanted to accelerate the process, is we could set up a special meeting somewhere between now and then in about a month, just for the specific purpose of approving release of the RFP and then bringing back the hiring in at the next quarterly meeting, if you wanted to do something like that to accelerate it.
I don't think that's necessary. I think it's quarterly meetings, and so we have a year left, and so there's 4 meetings between here and there. So if we can't find somebody in 4 meetings in a year, I think something's off.
Okay.
All right, so you guys have direction?
I believe we have, unless Ms. Daly needs more direction.
I do not.
Wonderful. Well, at this time, we can move on to presentations and updates.
So we have Chief Deal with us today. At the last quarterly meeting, Vice Chair Pittman had requested an agenda item with focus on the parks and security and public safety. And I wanted to bring Chief Deal in today to give you guys a brief presentation on how we're moving forward with those items at the city council level.
Good afternoon.
Morning. Or
Morning.
afternoon.
I
Afternoon.
think it's afternoon now. So, Ms. Daly asked me to come in and talk about basically what we talked about in the last couple council meetings, so I know it's a repeat for a few of you. That's why you need to leave soon, so we're gonna do it in about 2 or 3 minutes. So, I brought forward a plan that included a number of things in it. one of which involved a POP team, a problem-oriented policing team, that would focus on quality of life issues within the city of Oroville. We discussed how that would be structured, ultimately came to an agreement, I believe, how we're going to move forward with that. And I have began the recruitment process for that in the police department. This is going to be a team of individuals that don't, when I say individuals, I'm sorry, police officers. There's a supervisor on the team, there's a couple of police officers, a couple other city department members that'll be on that team as well. It's going to take a little bit of time to establish it, but once it gets established, the idea is to focus, like I said, on quality of life type crimes. We can list a number of quality of life crimes, but there's a lot of them. A lot of it's going to be in the parks. As we sit in the council meetings, we hear the community come, and we definitely hear their complaints and their concerns, and a lot of it revolves around parks and issues within the parks. This team of individuals will not work your general police officer duties. And what I mean by that is they're not going to be committed to the 40 hours a week calls for service. They're going to be committed to 40 hours a week problem-oriented policing. So they're not going to take the burglary call. They're not going to take the alarm call. They're not going to take the whatever call you want to pick that comes into our dispatch center. They're going to go around the community. A lot of their focus is going to be community-driven. So somebody from that team will probably sit in the council meetings and they'll listen to things so they can hear, or they'll take direction from myself. But the goal will obviously be moving towards improving quality of life. A lot of people want to talk about unhoused individuals and what they think that the problems are. Well, we'll identify those with help from the community and move forward. There's been discussion of that one day maybe evolving into a park ranger program, and it's just that's in its infancy, but we would certainly be interested in something like that, where then you have, instead of the community going in there, you might have a park ranger that's in the parks. We want the community to utilize the parks. My kids are all adults now, but if they weren't, I would want to take them to the park too. And I understand that people want to do that. So it's a very complex idea that we're definitely moving through, and like I said, I'm actively recruiting for that. And once it gets going, I think we'll certainly notice a difference. There'll be checks and balances along the way to make sure the process is working. Be happy to, like I said, there's other things in that plan, but that's the highlight. That's certainly the highlight, and I think that's what's going to make the most impact within this community, and I think that's where people see their most results. But if there are questions about that, I'll certainly be willing to answer those from anybody that has them.
Awesome. Yeah, we do have Member Fowler in the queue.
Chief Deal, thank you very much. I've been asking for this for a very long time. Wishes sometimes take a while for them to manifest.
Sure.
And you and I have talked about this, and I'm excited about this new program. Whatever I can do, or the Feather River Recreation Park District can do to assist you in this, please let me know.
Sure. I think the beginning phase, so we've got to put officers in there, and then we got to train the backfill, and so it's a process. But my initial plan was to hopefully identify the person that's going to supervise that, and then give them direction to start identifying their areas, and they will reach out then to ask for input. What would you like to see? Maybe meet with council members and see what they would like to see. But that's how it's going to start. Ultimate goal is to have the team up and running, hopefully by the beginning of the next year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair Pittman.
Yeah, I appreciate the description, and it's good for this body to hear that, the steps being taken, because this body is so much interested in, parks and facilities and the recreational activities. One other part of the team, and I'm not sure how well this is going to work, but I know that your sergeants now have been having ride-alongs with behavioral health folks. Would that be part of this new team too?
Yes, so there's a behavioral health aspect obviously to it, and it's when we have a homeless outreach counselor that rides along with us. He's actually applied for a police officer position within the department, and whether that manifests for him or not, there'll be other people there. I certainly like the idea of behavioral health counselor working with our police officers. There is the need. And to answer the question, yes, we will still keep that relationship and possibly build upon it with behavioral health so that there's a component. Now, do I think there's going to always be somebody in the car? No, but we'll have the resources, and a lot of times that's all it is just that person coming out and providing resources to the folks out there that need it.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next presentation that we have is with the NOFA updates. Do you want to go through those, Jordan?
Yeah, so per the committee's request, we have in attendance everyone that received funding from the 2018 NOFA grants. And first we have Birdcage, and I believe we have Heidi with us to give a short presentation on how the funding from the SBF has been going.
Good afternoon. My name is Heidi. I'm the secretary for the Birdcage Theater. Jennifer Beers, the treasurer, was scheduled to be here last week, but she's on vacation this week, so I am up. To date, we have spent $14,178.44 of our $25,000 NOFA. The majority of that has gone towards marketing. We did do a brochure, a print brochure. We're also doing, before the movie, ongoing ads, which is exciting for us. We've also done radio broadcasting, and we've had Facebook posts and things of that nature. We've also paid royalties of about $4,200 for upcoming shows, and we've done a few special events, including the Salmon Festival. We did the Feather Fiesta Parade, and as well. We have about $10,821 left. We have about 3 pending requests for rights through different, agencies, which we are still waiting to hear about. We were thinking of, and I don't even know if this is possible, about a possible extension, because these things seem to take a long time. We applied for these rights, 6 months ago. We're still waiting to hear whether we can get them or not, because we don't want any of our money to, be missed out on. So I'm not sure if an extension is possible or not, but we would like to hopefully get maybe a 6-month extension so we can, try to pursue more avenues for some rights to shows. But it's been extremely successful. The theater is operating in the red for the first time in probably 10 years.
In the black?
In the black. Let's try black. For the first time in like 10 years. We are very excited, and so we are also extremely grateful.
Thank you. Do you have a couple questions, or were you?
No, I was left in there. Go ahead.
Just out of curiosity.
Sorry.
How many shows about you guys put on per year, and attendance and that kind of information?
We try to put on 6 to 7 shows per year. Most of those are at the Birdcage Theater. We also try to do 1 or 2 shows at the state, permitting, their schedule, our scheduling as well. I know that I did the last show at the theater, and on my Sunday matinee, I had over 30 people, which is unheard of for our tiny little theater. So we were just thrilled with the turnout for our last show. But it varies. We have scaled back. We used to run 7 shows, including 2 Sunday matinees. And we used to do a Thrifty Thursday show. We decided we were too poor to afford that, so we are running Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Friday, Saturday. So we've pared it down to 5 shows only, hoping that we could get more people in, in the smaller time allowed. Based on my show and 30 people showing up for the only Sunday matinee, I think that might be a winning formula for us, so that's what we're going to carry forward.
Awesome. And on average?
On average, for most shows, you're looking between 15 and 20 people. We'd obviously certainly love to see a whole lot more, but, we're trying to get out there, and we are doing everything that we can possibly think of for advertising, but it's just, it is what it is.
Gotcha. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Next, we have Ray with Upstate Community Enhancement Foundation.
Hello, and again, thank you for the kind words. So I just want to say, none of it's possible without, of course, your support and the support of all the other organizations, the Downtown Business Association, Chamber of Commerce, DWR, Fish and Wildlife, and many, many others. So it really takes a huge effort to make these things successful, and we're really grateful for that. The NOFA has been kind of divided up into the 5 different events that we've been looking at. I've kind of submit the invoices after each event to to Jordan, and I actually have your Salmon Festival one here for you. So to date, we have spent out of the $22,421. I do have some handouts if you'd like them. Out of the $25,000 allocation, that does not include the Parade of Lights, which is coming up. Of course, the biggest consumer of this is the Salmon Festival, with the biggest outreach and cost of advertising. The majority of it does go to advertising. We have been able to produce some banners that are up on the monitors now, I see, that are heavy-duty vinyl. They range from 10 feet by 2 feet to 30 feet by 3 feet. Perhaps you've seen them around town or around the county. They have wind slits. I would say since they're only up for 2 or 3 weeks a year, they'll probably last 20 years. Very well made. And we also have some ones that we designed for the information booth and merchandise booths as well. The Salmon Festival by far has the most. I think there's 24 of those banners total. And by the grace of local merchants and organizations, we've been able to hang them on the ball field at Feather River Parks and Rec, on Steve Seidenglanz's, some of his fences. We've expanded some down to Gridley. Congressman Lamalfa allows us to put one on his fence at Nelson and Highway 99 as well. So, by event, Wildflower and Nature Festival, we helped them develop a magnet this year, kind of like what we do at Salmon Festival, for a little repeat marketing that'll be developed with different flowers throughout the year as a little collector kind of concept. That was $3,369. Out of the NOFA, Feather Fiesta Days, $3,304. The fireworks, $2,692, and the Salmon Festival, $13,055 roughly. So about compensates it. And again, we have about $2,300 set aside for the Parade of Lights. The Downtown Business Association is working on the banner design for that. Again, that'll repeat and follow year after year. The nice thing too is these are not time sensitive. As you can see, they indicate the weekend. These events are kind of built into those weekends, so it works out well.
Great. What was the attendance the last festival? Do you know roughly?
For the Salmon Festival, we estimated, we were down considerably. I think the weather had a lot to do with that. We estimated about 12 to 14,000. We're still kind of getting some final numbers in. The fireworks was probably the big winner this year. I think that was the busiest. What did we say? Well, it's hard to calculate, but both areas basically maxed out. So you're looking at probably 10,000 there, and then of course it's whoever sees it from not downtown, but from the local area, from the rooftops, or from Kelly Ridge looking down.
Or from the lake?
Or from the lake,
Kayaking in
yeah.
the forebay?
Yeah, in the forebay. Feather Fiesta Days, I can't quite, I know that the Feather Fiesta Day, I think, was pretty normal. I think we estimated about 16,000 at that. And then the Wildflower Nature Festival, unfortunately, it poured that morning. Attendance was pretty light. But we did able to move it back to Riverbend Park. It was a kind of quasi reopening for the park, and just a new facility there, the way it's laid out. I mean, I look at that place as could be a home for really, really fun events, especially the fact that you can kayak in, and it's kind of perfect for that event. And the new, like the Bear Pavilion, those new pavilions just worked great. I kind of have a vision of like a barbecue beer festival there some year, but that's another story. Maybe that's after this one's done.
Any other questions?
Quick question I had about, and your banners I think are great because I do see them around and I think it's very helpful. And I think the old story, for marketing, you got to show it to them 5 times before they actually buy it. Did we get much marketing on the electronic signs that we have here in town?
You know, that was partnered through the chamber. So yes, okay. And that was done through, I believe, the chamber contract with DWR?
Yes.
Yeah, with DWR. So yes, we have that, and that's been done, but that's kind of done through a separate entity.
Yeah, because I think we were the only ones that have electronic billboards in Oroville. We have 2 here, or no, actually 3. Yeah. And those seem to be working quite well.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Okay, good, thank you.
Member Fowler?
Just for your information, Ray, we used to have a beer fest that went on for about 10 years.
I've attended it a few times.
And the first 3 and 4 was at the Bear Pavilion.
Oh, was it?
We
okay.
had it there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Now, I remember when it was at Centennial Plaza for a while, and then it was downtown.
That was after.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next, we have Robin and Heather from the Oroville Downtown Business Association.
Hello.
Hi. Do you guys have these?
I don't think so.
Would you like one?
Oh, yeah.
Homer's printed them.
Thank you.
Wow. Nice. Thanks, Commerce.
Thanks. No, but I can write it for you if you like. Here, you want one too? Because we had no idea how many print. It's our first time to ever one of these. Here. Thank you, ma'am. Any other staff?
Well, we can hand them out to them.
Okay. This is our first time at one of these, since it's our first time ever receiving any funds from you. Because Heather wrote the grant and got us the grant, is now an advisor on our board. So I'm gonna let Heather do most of the talking because she knows a whole lot more than I do about this. Go for it, Heather.
Thanks, Robin.
You're welcome.
So hello. So this packet is basically, or this deck is just kind of two things. It's an update on the project, and it's kind of a who we are now. I was on the ODBA board for 2 years, and now we are a BID, and this is very exciting. And so we've had a change of people, so I thought maybe you guys could have this for reference as to what's happening currently. So the BID, of course, is a nonprofit organization. The main things we focus on right now are promotion of events, putting on events, getting the public interested in downtown, and beautification, so changing the way it looks. So here is the next slide is the new board, some old members and new members, but mostly new people, which is exciting because there's a fresh new look to everything, and it is an all volunteer board, and there's no staff at this point. So all the work of events, festivals, marketing, development, everything is put on by this group in particular, and a few extra volunteers and some contractors now and again. So the budget overview. We have spent so far around $12,000. I will be going through each of these line items to tell you kind of where we're at. So we can turn the page to the billboard. So the billboard was a wish of ours because every time we'd go into downtown, it would be sort of a kind of not cheery greeting. It was either somebody missing, or it was political, or it was, it just wasn't a happy message necessarily. So we didn't get it to advertise anything. We got it just to be like a welcome to Oroville, kind of downtown Oroville, just a kind of gateway to go through when you're driving from Rayleigh's into downtown. So that's been going really well. We have that until the end of 2020, April 2020, and all of the work is done by local designers, and hopefully we can keep that going another year.
We're trying to change it to make it more seasonal.
Yeah, it'll be changed seasonally.
It's also hard to get everyone to agree with what that looks like.
Yes.
So it will be getting changed again to look a little bit more seasonal for the holidays.
Yeah. And the next one is our office. So we've been working out of our houses, businesses. So we've really wanted an office, and this office space has allowed us to greet customers when we're doing events, have a place for all of the Christmas decorations for the town, have a place for our papers, have a place for meetings. And so it's been a huge asset to us. It also lends a level of legitimacy to the organization, and I think brings people together. So it's solid and has really been a huge help with the BID, letting people come and have a place to gather. So next one, year-round lighting. We really felt like a couple of things. Safety was an issue, always is, and it's so dark. And I actually was helping a friend work at the wine bar, and it was so dark when you left at even 8 o'clock in the winter. So we thought, other towns do this. They light up their town with these string lights, and we've had amazing feedback from both businesses and people who come downtown to spend their evenings downtown.
Businesses are begging us for more lights.
Yes, which we do have budget for.
So we have been buying them, and
telling them you have to hang them if you take them from us. And then the next step is, now can you turn them on? And can you turn them on at night? So we are definitely hounding the businesses that do have them up to make sure that they are on at night.
Yeah.
Because we have down more of a actual like restaurant bar feel finally downtown again. So there's more people out at night. So that's the goal, is to make it feel like you're not alone in a dark alleyway by yourself at night.
And so marketing and promotion. This was the least amount of budget that we had, but I feel like we've done a really good job with it. We have used local photographers to take indoor and outdoor images of downtown shops and restaurants, so we can use them for promotional purposes, for everything, for website, social, print, all of that. And we are doing a video, which is we're doing a 60-second and 30-second cut. It's in post-production, so we've shot most of it. We'll be able to use that for TV commercials, Facebook, and our website.
And our website is getting an overhaul. So currently, most of
Yes.
the pictures that were taken are not actually on our website yet, but in the next couple of weeks,
Yes.
okay, next couple of weeks, they will be on the web. So our website will have a whole new look and a really professional look, and not just business owners taking pictures, selfies of themselves.
Right. So create an atmosphere even on the web, so when people we want to come downtown want to look at that, they can see the same thing when they come downtown. So the next one is, did you hand out? Event coordinator. So this is a big one for us, and we have hired a couple of event coordinators. Our big signature events every year are the tree lighting, Parade of Lights, Feather Fiesta Day Street Fair, and Salmon Fest Street Fair. And these are put on solely with a little bit of help, but we have to make sure that, because these are owned by ODBA, to make sure their logistics are running smoothly, the vendors are happy. So we have, and the farm to table dinner, which is pictured there, we do. So we've hired professional coordinators to help us with those, which have given us the chance as a board to sit back and create a vision for the events, and then send people off to do all the big stuff, like make sure we have paid insurance and our permits and decorations. We also, the check-ins, the permits, the vendor registration, the placement of the vendors in the lots. I mean, it's a lot of work. So we're very happy to have that taken off of our plates this year. And so that was a huge help. Thank you.
They're worth their weight in
SBF
gold
for that. Yes.
to hire those coordinators.
Yes. And that is something that we plan to do going forward, just because we care so much about what happens in our downtown and what's put on the streets. And this gives us the chance to create that event and let somebody do the boots on the ground work that we can hire and manage through that.
And speaking to this, the situation with Ray, since I know he's retiring, you guys were talking about that earlier. We would be interested in taking a chunk of what Ray does and being the ones to do it, especially the downtown events. I would say we're not really interested in doing the other events, the ones that are outside of downtown, but the ones that he manages that are currently in downtown, those would be the ones that we would be interested in our 501c3 taking care of and hiring an event coordinator to do that. And my recommendation is, I think that person needs to, in order to fully understand, because I know Ray does a lot and there's a lot of moving parts, is that it would be good to have somebody that's able to work alongside him for the 2020 year. And that way they're not kind of thrown to the wolves for the 2021 year. So when I heard you saying 6 months, that made me a little bit nervous, just for the simple fact of you're already going to be missing some events at that point. And it would be good that somebody could work with him before the event. So that's my...
I think to add on to that, because the ODBA does do all of the entry forms and sign-up sheets and takes the money, and I mean, we just for the street fair portions and like the parade of lights, we do all of that. And I think that with whoever takes over Ray's, because we work very closely with Ray, and, oh, he's gone. So we would love to kind of give what we do as well as a part of that study for who might take over that position or how you might get it, because a lot of the work is done on the front end from us. And we also have our own marketing, which I think needs to be melded into one marketing plan, not separate. So that's a bigger conversation, but moving on. Okay.
Sidetracked.
Holiday decor. Okay. So this is a work in progress. Most of it has been ordered. This is not just for Christmas, but we love Christmas. Bye. But this is mostly for Christmas holidays. But we are also looking at doing seasonal light pole banners, spring, summer, fall. So we will do that hopefully before the end of, or the middle of February when our time runs out. And this is just a group of the people we've hired because we do believe in hiring locally, very locally, like Oroville locally, not just in California, local. And then this is the future of where we want to go. You can read that on your own. And our working committees, so you guys can see what we're working towards. We have events committees, marketing committee, vision and beautification and tourism. The tourism committee meets every Wednesday at 10, and that's with DWR and the Chamber and Explore Butte County. So a lot of good, solid partners. These are some of our events that we put on. And these are current print marketing. One, we did a editorial for Explore Butte County, the guide for downtown, for Butte,
California?
It's for Butte County, and we did a ad for downtown. And then in Upgraded Living, in the November issue, we will also have an editorial.
And December.
And December.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you. Wouldn't have been possible without you. All right.
Any questions?
Yeah, I want to say, for those of you who are not at the Farm to Table event, it was my first year this year. You guys did a phenomenal job.
Yay!
I sat with people across from me that were from Gridley and outside the area. And to the next of me, I had people that escaped the campfire, victims of the campfire. And I can tell you, they were so enthralled with the event.
Oh,
you guys made Oroville proud that night.
Oh,
really.
thank you.
I was
Thank you.
proud. And I'm not easily impressed.
Well, good.
Thank you very much. And I'm also glad to hear that local means local.
Yeah.
Thanks for pounding that in, because that
Yeah.
means something.
Yeah, I think so too.
And
So
as
keep
a
up the good work.
small business owner, I'm like, wait, is there a small business in town we can support?
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a couple of comments I'd like to make. I think this is a great presentation, so thank you. I got to add, the billboard was great. I think the billboard was a game changer because it just captured everybody's concept that it's here, it's there, and I'd like to have seen 5 or 6 of those billboards around town if, down the line, it'd be something to think about. Because that's what people
Right.
catch. They catch
Yeah.
their eyes.
That
catch
was kind of a test. Like,
Yeah, well, it was a good
and then-
test.
and I'm,
Yeah.
that was a
Well,
good idea, yeah.
I think the other thing too, and I noticed it twice, is the LED lighting
Yeah.
is another game changer.
Yeah.
For everyone.
Yeah.
And in my own world, because I just had my lights turned back on about 35 minutes ago, since Saturday. So lighting is a big deal now in my own home, and the LED lights create a whole different atmosphere.
Right.
They really do, and, it's not just they're, economical to operate, they do create a whole different atmosphere, so I applaud you on those, the more the better. I don't think you can put too many and.
I
tight-
Agreed. That's why it's a big line item.
Yeah, I really do think, because
Yeah.
that's an attraction for customers to enjoy.
Yeah.
And you've done great work, and good, congratulations to y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, we'll move forward, thank you.
So next we have PJ with the Oroville Veterans Memorial Park Committee.
Hi, first of all, thank you very much for letting us have this, another opportunity.
And we are very happy that our architects have almost completed the drawings for the new shade structure. We had to revise it a little bit. And so I know most of you are a little bit familiar, but let me quickly go over. We're going to do the shade structure, the bench on the overlook, the granite bench in the overlook, the steel curved bench under the shade structure, the flagpole, and the group itself is probably going to support the addition of the two Medal of Honor monuments that go right around the flagpole. There is also landscaping in this, and the plan was for this fall, I don't know who clicks to the next.
I do.
Okay, so, well, before I get to that, everyone probably knows, but if you don't, we lost our vice chair, Ron Sharber, at the beginning of October. And so now our two real founders are not here anymore. So we're a little bit regrouping as to how exactly we're going to move everything forward, fundraising-wise. But we are starting to get a handle on that. And so if you want to go to the next slide. This is what I was saying as far as this is what we've done before. You think you've all seen that, and you want to go to the next one? And then this is what we are doing this time. Just to make sure everyone knows, because when we go to the next slide, you'll see that we're going to show you where the 6 war memorial monuments are, which are the real original impetus for the park. We're not putting these in at this time. That will probably cost around $130,000 or $40,000 to do it, but we're leaving the room to do it in between what we already have and what we're doing in this. So if you want to move to the next one, here is the concept drawing that RGA did for us for the shade structure. We looked at the shade structure design that had been done before, realized it was massive, beautiful, and unaffordable. And this one more closely matches what everybody has been looking at in the renderings that we've had forever. And so it does add some posts out at the end, but that allows a little bit better shade support. So, and that shows you where the walkway will be and how you get to the flagpole. So we're looking forward. I think we'll have those in a couple of weeks. Then we'll be able to go talk with our volunteer contractor to see how much of it he wants to do. We know that everyone's gotten super busy because of the campfire. So working that in probably won't occur till next year. We're looking forward to getting the permit package all done and all the permitting done before the end of the year. And on the, you want to flip to the next slide? So we have these 2 tracks. That's one track. And the other track is, we were looking forward for the sheriff's crew to clear out the vegetation again and all the old fig trees and stuff around the base of the retaining wall between the trail and the retaining wall. That I just stopped on the way down here to see that hasn't happened yet. And then we're going to be going out to talk with 3 different landscapers to get their take on, sort of their estimates as to what it would take to do the plan we already have that was approved in an environmental impact report years ago as to what plants can be planted where and what needs to be done. We have that landscaping drawing. So we're hoping to get that done before the rains go crazy. And you can flip to the next page and you can kind of see where this landscaping is all to the outsides of where the drive is there, where the parking lot is on the other side, and sort of between the trail and where the overlook currently is built. So that's what we're looking at doing this fall. I wanted to also, if you can flip, I think maybe goes to, we have other tasks for, yeah, this is good. All the rest of the project tasks will be done in 2020 for actually the construction part. And meanwhile, we wanted to let you know that we are still pushing ahead on fundraising in other areas. This is the clay model of the 7-foot bronze bugler. He, including the M1 that goes on his back, is all the major stuff is complete and the artist is working on the fine touches of those. We were very happy. The very last event that Ron Sharber was putting together was held on the 5th of October, 4 days after he passed, and the American Legion Post 95 guys really pulled it together because Ron had done all the work on the project up to that point, to that dinner dance. They got it done and they gave us $4,023 at meeting on the third Monday of this month. So that was fabulous, and we are only $7,000 away from being able to actually take the bugler down to the foundry and get it cast in bronze. So that is very good news. And then other park elements are going to have to wait until later, but we're already thinking about how some of this might be funded. And again, I'm going to encourage everyone, and I will be coming to talk with you, Sean, about all partnering together, seeing if we can go after some state parks money. I'd really personally like to see the trail done. I'd like to see some of the museums and the parks all together so that everyone can have a wonderful experience and have lots of places to stop along the way. So, thank you very much.
Excellent, thank you. Any questions? Thank you, PJ. That was wonderful. It was good progress seen here.
Thank you.
Next up, we have, go ahead.
We have Tony, and I don't know if anyone's speaking, but we have Tony with the Feather River Center.
Hi. Good afternoon. Thank you for doing this today. First of all, we want to thank our other fellow grantees from Stage for finding the funds to allow us to rent the State Theater for 2 days in February to put on the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. The first day is going to be a Friday, and we're working with local high schools, photography and art teachers to incorporate display of student art as well as provide field trips for the kids for the films for the first day. So thank you to Stage for that. At the Feather River Center, we've spent only $66,000 plus or minus dollars of our 300 at this point. It's a little slow to spend this much money, and so we may ask for an extension in the spring. But we have some pictures of some of the equipment we've purchased. These are some of the new kayaks, and you can keep going there, the new kayaks, and that's one of our staff on one of our new inflatable stand-up paddle boards and another one holding a stand-up paddle board. And what's next there, George? These are the kayaks down at the lake. We purchased a number of kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, paddles, life jackets, and storage racks at this point. These purchases, we think, contributed to our success at rentals this season. We were open 1 day less than we were last year, and we increased our sales 13%, up to $55,000. And I think a lot of it is due to new equipment. People like to come in and see new, fun stuff there, and that's really good. So that's been great. So thank you for that. And next slide, please. We also purchased a pickup. We found a used pickup truck after looking for 5 or 6 months, and this allows us to move equipment from our boathouse down to the swim beach when we have large school groups. There's many days we have large school groups, and we bring down inflatables and all kinds of other equipment down to that beach for the kids to play with under our lifeguard supervision. This truck helps with that. It's a used 2002, 244,000 mile Dakota. It's really in great shape. And we also use it. We partnered with Water Resources this past couple weeks, and borrowed some rafts and served about 190 elementary kids, all from Chico at this point, on some raft trips, floating classroom trips to study salmon. And this truck allows us to carry equipment down there. We are writing more grants to fund these salmon trips, and we'd like to get more schools and, of course, local schools involved in it in the next year. The Sailing Club has purchased a new safety launch for their programs, and this is a used launch, and they found this at a really good spot up north, up in Reading, I think it was, or up in Oregon. And so we have a couple shots of that. And this is their new safety launch. The purpose of these safety launches is going to be to show our regatta people. We want to put on regattas, rowing regattas and sailing regattas that will bring in people to Oroville for accommodations, overnight housing, food, eats, and all that. And these safety launches, this one and the other ones that haven't arrived yet for our rowing programs, will do that. When people come to see our events, they'll see how professional we are, which we think will bring more of them back in. We're already on the calendar for 2020 head races with the organization Regatta Central, which is where all the rowing, collegiate masters rowing programs sign up to come to events. So we're already on the calendar for that for next year, and we're hoping that's going to be a success, and then we want to put on more of those each year. The highlight of our thing is the sprint rowing course. And I have a bigger map. Can you see that map okay? Is this?
We can see this.
Okay, now I'll leave this here for you guys to look at. Oh, maybe. And Melton Design Group is doing that. We got this finished. We had this on display at the Salmon Festival. I took this picture at the Salmon Festival. And Greg has done a lot, his team has done a lot of work in fine tuning our original drawing. And you could see we have 8 lanes of rowing and then 1 lane on each side for warm up and cool down boats, essentially. And we're going to work with, we had a great meeting with Eric C. and his team at Water Resources a couple weeks ago. And they're very confident that we should be able to complete this project with very few barriers jumping up. They even offered to help not drain the lake, but reduce the amount of water around the peninsula when excavation time comes, to help make that a little easier. Right now, Greg is in touch with Eric Guinea at Environmental Services Associates, and they're going to be starting the biologicals studies in the next few weeks, and which is the first step in the permitting process, because once we know what's out there and what's endangered or what's not, then we could work with DWR's team in state parks to get those things fixed up and mediated. So if we can go to the next slide, we have some slides. We had a head race last fall, or a couple weeks ago actually, and we posted it a little late, so we didn't get a lot of participation because it was too late. People in the rowing world plan ahead. But this is a nice shot of some people. This was a shot taken by a citizen from the Nelson Bridge last spring of our rowing club practicing at dawn. So next slide, please. And this was a scene at the head race, one scene at the head race. This was a collaborative effort. This was taken by somebody from the Butte Sailing Club. See the next slide, please. And this is the people on the row. You can see them in front of the levee there. And so we wanted to close with a video we took. If you can imagine this is kind of an exciting video. It's only a couple boats, but imagine what this would look like if we had 10 boats in this lane that we're going to be building in the next couple years. It's a real exciting event to watch. This is 30 seconds, so if you can enjoy this.
Are there 8 rowers per boat?
8 rowers per boat, and then there's a coxswain in the end on the right side, That's like shouting out directions and instructions and encouragement. And this is real exciting to see how beautiful it is there with Table Mountain and everything in the dam in the background. So we're real excited about getting this big project going and finished so that we can start to bring these events to the city. It's going to be great. Greg, do you want to add anything?
I think you covered it. We've got a survey, besides the biological, we're having a topography survey to identify anything, and which will help us with the sections and the volumes of removal, and we're moving forward.
Rich? Eric? I'm always putting him on the spot just for fun. He's seen The Godfather 10 times, so he knows who I am.
Within the parameters of, what we
Oh, yeah, right.
for operational.
Mhm.
Right. Definitely raises the bar.
But we're working, and we appreciate Eric and his team. We're looking at putting a little carport shelter in the boat yard so that we can protect some of our new equipment. And we're also talking about expanding that boat yard. And Eric and his team and State Parks have been very, very helpful with that, coming out and helping us measure and, giving us direction to work on those things. We really appreciate that. Finally, we are applying for more grants to fund this big project as well as our others. I have $120,000. I have $100,000 requested in with the Irving Foundation grant I found on grantstation.com and to fund this race course. And we have another submitted to the Brooks Matthews Foundation for another $80,000 to help this. So we're looking around for money. Next year, my job is going to be moving away from direct operations at the Forbay Aquatic Center and working on event management and fundraising and working on these projects more full-time, or what passes for full-time, whatever I do. So, okay, any questions?
Member questions? No? I do have one with the spectator viewing location, and I know it's a down-the-road project, but what kind of numbers of spectators would you possibly have or have a vision for? Are you looking for bleachers or what
Rich,
kind of
you
thing
can
would
help
you?
with that. How many spectators could we? You've been to. He just went to a big event down in Sacramento. They had 64.
Right. It would be numbers in the hundreds. Some of it's the crews, some of it's the families, local people who want to come see. Once we can do the sprint race course, that would be really a spectator event, because every 5 or 10 minutes there'll be boats 8 abreast coming down the waterway. The head race is also a good spectator because the start is right at the Nelson Avenue Bridge. The loop goes around the South Forebay and then back through the North Forebay. So that's another beautiful place where you can actually see the whole 5-kilometer race course from one location.
One location, yeah. I'm just looking at the potential of having events and then how many people come and.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say. Like he says, we expect hundreds of people, but as we get. Once you build it and they will come, right? So once we get the process started and once we start to have these races, we're getting pretty good at marketing and social media and utilizing the local media to promote our events. And so once we get on their radar and we start to have these events, I think a lot of people are going to come out and take a look at them. Any race is exciting to watch, even if you don't do the sport. But what we hope to see is people coming in to watch the events might get interested in doing the sports too. And then we'd be able to expand programming. We'd like to offer a junior rowing program, and we'd like to find a way to get scholarships for Oroville kids and a junior sailing program also, because those are two events that our partners put on. And once we can raise funds for those kinds of things, then we could bring more kids in. and more people in.
Rough numbers, I know you had an educational program this summer. What kind of amounts of population did you run across this year?
How many did we do?
Yeah.
We approached 3,000. We're almost, when I came on, it was 950 in 2015, and it's increased each year since then. And this year, I don't have the final figures for these last 2 weeks of float trips. They'll add 180 to it, so it's around 3,000 kids.
Good.
This year. We received a grant to do Paradise schools that were located here at Bird Street, and we brought all those kids in. We did 876, I think it was, Paradise kids with North Valley Community Foundation funds.
Oh, excellent.
And so we're doing all that kind of stuff, so.
Cool. Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well done. Next up.
Thank you. Next, we have Jim with Stage.
Good afternoon. Thank you. I'm Jim Mall, president of the State Theater Arts Guild, and I'm pleased to bring you a progress report on what we've been doing, which has been very visible, as a matter of fact.
Thank you.
On how we've been investing part of the $638,000 that you allocated to us earlier this year. So far, and all of the bills are not in, but so far we have invested $429,000 of that into the theater. The information I just handed out, in fact, I have enough to hand out over here too, is detailed explanation of all of the projects, along with some photographs and also a detailed budget. It's important to realize that most of these projects, in fact, the bulk of these projects, took place during a 90-day period starting on the 5th of July and ending just over 3 weeks ago with the relighting of the new marquee. In addition to the marquee, in the lobby, the carpeting has been replaced, the walls and ceiling have been replastered and repainted. This will provide the base for the artwork and custom broadloom carpeting that will be part of the next phase of renovation. The tile drinking fountain in the lobby has been restored, including custom handmade gold tiles based on the original architect's design. The auditorium doors were stripped and repainted, consistent with the original design. Even the hinges were stripped to their brass finish, and all of the original hardware was reinstalled. Funds from the City Arts Commission, combined with the significant contribution from our local family, allowed us to hire a restoration expert from the Bay Area who uncovered the historic mural on the north wall of the lobby. Our volunteers and hired craftspeople probably have a new appreciation for how the Winchester House got out of control. Working on a 91-year-old building will do that. One small project leads to another, which leads to another, which leads to a larger one. For instance, the circuits for the temporary chandeliers, which are pictured in the packet that I handed out, the circuits had to be completely rewired because the existing ones were old and the insulation was frayed. This also precipitated the mezzanine outlets being rewired. So all of the outlets now are wired into the south wall instead of onto the south wall. We've also replaced vinyl baseboards with baseboards consistent with the original design. The roof and attic work that we planned was completed. This included the removal of outdated equipment and debris from previous projects. Our crews also sealed the areas that previously allowed pigeons to take up residence in the theater. We upgraded the ceiling insulation with installation of 6 inches of mineral rock. This, along with the rewired attic fan, will provide additional comfort in the theater and also help reduce utility costs. The remainder of the roof and attic work will be completed next summer. The projects have had to go on hold now because we're in the midst of a busy performance season. Projects will resume again in January. Stage will provide a complete accounting for our match component as well as the closeout of the current contract prior to the January meeting. We have not received all of the bills and invoices yet, so we don't have an exact accounting, although I provided an up-to-date figure detailed in the packet that I hand out. Now, we anticipate that there's going to be a balance left when we close out the current project of work, and we're going to ask the SBF to hold on to that balance for us for the next phase of work, which will be next summer when we do the roof and solar project. That contract we think we're going to be a little short on and could use the funds which will be left over from our current project. I do have to say thank you, incidentally, to the city of Oroville for their, what I guess would be best be termed their rapid response to street closures, tree trimmings, and other last-minute issues that arose as a result of getting the marquee installed. Also like to thank the downtown business community because they endured numerous street closing and lots of noise while the projects were being completed. Going back to a comment earlier about the use of electronic billboards, as you know, we have a marvelous marquee with lots of opportunity for promoting community events. The stage board is currently working on policies to go ahead and incorporate the promotion of nonprofit activities. We're also going to explore whether or not we can also provide some sale of advertising on that marquee, but our first priority would obviously be to promote local activities going on in both the downtown and the surrounding areas. As you know, we call the efforts that at the State Theater the Miracle on Myers Street. At the presentation we made to you in January, I used a quote from speaker and author Og Mandino, and I'd like to go ahead and use that again. Every memorable act in history of the world is a triumph of enthusiasm. Nothing great was ever achieved without it because it gives any challenge or any occupation, no matter how frightening or difficult, a new meaning. Without enthusiasm, you are doomed to a life of mediocrity, but with it, you can accomplish miracles. Thank you very much.
Thank
I'd
you,
be
Joe.
happy to answer any questions.
Good.
How's the sale, not sale, transfer of the ownership of the theater coming along?
It's coming along slow, very slowly. There's been some issues that we ran into that we have to clear up. We want to make sure that when this transfer is complete, that all of the i's have been dotted and all the t's have been crossed, and it's a thorough process. So we are hoping to have it done by the first part of actually September. That got moved to October, and now we're probably looking more realistically towards somewhere toward the end of the year.
And if I can add to that, we have been very pleased with the cooperation we've gotten from city staff and the council. There has been no foot dragging on the part of anyone involved with the process of getting this transfer accomplished. We've been very fortunate. I mentioned at the marquee relighting that a lot of times government can be sometimes a hindrance to getting things done. That has not been the case with this process to transfer ownership. We're very fortunate.
Any questions?
Thank you
Just
very
want to
much.
give compliments to the marquee in that relighting ceremony. That was great. Also, the service for Jim Christensen was really very nice.
It was very nice, yeah. It was nice with all of the power outages around the community on a Sunday afternoon to have about 250 or 300 people show up for a celebration of life. It was really very touching.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank you very
sir.
much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And who's up next?
Okay, our last presentation today is going to be from Sean from Feather River Recreation and Park District.
Oh, Sean.
Hello, good afternoon. So this update will be for two projects. One is the Thermalito Family Center at the Nelson Sports Complex, and the other is to complete the Brad Freeman Trail through Oroville. The first one here, we're really excited about this one, the Thermalito Family Center. It's going to be a great addition to our community. I just wanted to briefly go through the scope a little bit for you that are not familiar with the project. This is an update to the Nelson Sports Complex, the pool area, to add a water play area, a shade structure, to add some picnic tables, and to replace the incredibly aging infrastructure for the pool, and to replaster the pool as well. There's a future component shown at the upper end of the rendering there that's more shade structures and a lawn area that it actually has existing irrigation right now. It's a lawn area outside of the pool. But so I think we may be able to include that in this phase if the budget permits, just to reuse that existing turf and irrigation, but we'll see. Do you want to go to the next slide, Jordan? Melton Design Group is also putting together construction drawings for this project as well. Greg's here in the audience if you have any questions for him. They're about 30% through construction drawings at this point. Next slide, please. This is just a blow up of that drawing. We're looking to include ADA access from the parking lot that's lacking a little bit right now as well. And as we put in the water play area, it's replacing the old kiddie pool there. That will also improve ADA access throughout that end of the pool deck. Where we had shade structures in that future phase, towards that lawn area, towards the back end of it, we're looking to also just bring those closer to the existing pool deck and possibly include those in this phase as well. Next slide. And here's the first couple renderings of the water play area itself. So a big fun bucket style dump in the middle of the water play area, some smaller spray features surrounding that, some little critters, a snake, a frog, and an arched frog towards another end. Here's just a little bit more simplified version of those elements. And then some blow-ups as you move around. You can just slowly go through each of these, Jordan. And so that includes an activator switch as well, so the kids will be able to hit an activator button and turn these spray features on and off. Mm-hmm. All right, and so that's about the end of that update there. We are, let's see, we're only about $40,000 into the budget there for construction drawings. It was $6,000 for the master plan. We are looking to put the project out to bid this winter for a spring build. With the current bid climate right now and contractors being so busy, there is the potential for contractors not to be able to fit that in their schedule for bidding this winter. It's not like a typical park project where you can have them just start right afterwards. So there's a chance that the construction may go into next winter of 2020-21. Any questions on that project before I move on to the trail?
Questions? One question I have about the Family Fun Center, the idea of cabanas or small places that you can rent, is that in your scope of things or not, or?
Yes, it is.
Because that's, as I've been to the water parks, that seems to be one of the primary income sources for the rec district, where they can lease it out, rent it for the day or whatever, so family funds can be. Then, are you also planning to have any beverage or food sales?
We will. There's an existing snack bar there now that we will utilize a little bit better. I think it's going to be a little more popular with the water play area there.
Because of these facilities, those are the two revenue streams that really come forward. So. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else? Let's see the next one.
Okay. So this is the old master plan for what we used to call a nature center trail, and it really is closing that missing loop of the Brad Freeman Trail between the Veterans Memorial Park and the nature center. Goes under the Green Bridge, the Washington Street Bridge. Really, really beautiful area to hike if you haven't been through there yet. So this project, I don't know if you recall, we were through construction drawings and had started environmental permitting. So the funding for this project was mostly for construction. And as we went to give drawings to the county for our building permit, and they went through, this is a title survey that we had done for the area. They pointed out that we had, if you want to go to the next slide, Jordan, out of all the existing parcels there, it's a unique process that I haven't been through before. That, you know, there's normal parcel lines, but once you actually have a title survey done, you can end up with property lines that don't match up exactly next to, you know, each parcel. And so, if you look towards the middle of the drawing there's two lines that go up and down the middle of the middle of that triangle there, that where two property lines don't line up, and it ends up being an unknown property in between two existing properties. So the county has said that we have to do what's called a quiet title. So we have to basically put a notice out to the public to say, hey, there's this little piece of land that nobody knows who owns. So does anybody own it? And if nobody steps up, then either the county will claim that, or the recreation district, or whoever's involved in the project. Most of the land that the trail goes through is county land at the moment, besides two private properties, so it may end up just becoming county property. So it's a small hiccup in the project. We're working with our lawyer on a budget to see what that costs. It looks like it may cost between, at a minimum, about $10,000, and it could be about $15,000. So the current budget that we have now, want to go to the next slide, Jordan? It's a little hard to see on the screen there. We do have $15,000 for bid and construction management. The district may be able to handle those services themselves instead of having a consultant do that work. So we're looking to possibly use that end of the budget, and I think that could make it work.
Good.
All right.
Any timelines?
Otherwise, yes, so that, glad you asked, Dave. That was my next point, is that, so the quiet title survey could take as small as low as 6 months, maybe 18 months total if there's a protest. If somebody says, hey, that's my piece of land, then that's the extra year that could be added on. Otherwise, we're ready to go out to bid.
Member Fowler.
I'd just like to say, I think most of you already know that this is something that's very dear to my heart. I ran on this completion of the trail. The Feather River is a gorgeous river that most people, most cities would die to have. This is something that would benefit the Nature Center, downtown Oroville, the Betches Memorial Park District, City of Oroville. This is a win-win. I strongly support this and ask for everybody's support on this. This needs to happen sooner than later. So I hope that we have solidarity on this issue.
Anyone else? Yeah, Sonny.
So, Sean, you're saying it could take place in as little as 6 months?
We could put it out to bid at that point, right?
Yeah, but to have approval in 6 months, what has to happen?
For the quiet title work, so.
Yeah, what
right.
has to happen for that? Is the clock ticking? 6 months from yesterday, today, tomorrow? What?
Sure.
Where are we?
So first, we just got a quote from our lawyer on what these services would cost. So we'd have to have that contract go in front of our board, have that approved, and then they would have to put together the documents that would notify the public of these property boundaries. So it's 6 months from our board approving the contract.
I suggest our board have emergency meeting as soon as possible. Advertise it, let's get together, let's move the ball. It's in our court and we're sitting on it.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you, Sonny.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, and we all look forward to it. In fact, from the City of Oroville's perspective, in the general plan and the park and trails plan, this was identified as, I believe, the #1 spot in the community that needed to have this completion done. So city certainly supports the project, and I understand the complexities because the bridge is in the county. The ground under the bridge is in the county, but both sides are in the city. Had this all been in the city, it'd have been a lot easier to tend to.
Right.
The difficulty is the city has never accepted that because we didn't want to have to take care of the bridges. And that's just that simple. That's why the public might understand why in the world is that not in the city, but that's why. And it's a complicated venue, and I applaud your efforts to get this one done because that's a big connection. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Haynes. There you go.
You're on. Is this on?
No.
There we go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chair, my comments won't do justice to what it is that I think the members of your community who are the proponents of these projects should feel, the pride that this committee should feel in having gone through the work that you did in order to be able to identify these projects and find the means to be able to provide the funding to them. I think that when the SBF was envisioned before I arrived on the scene, but I think that what we see in the updates for these projects, it's proved to be the right approach, and that is to be able to put funding into the hands of the community, and you seek out the best and brightest ideas from the members of your community in order to be able to apply those funds in a way that can show or can develop recreational projects that provide entertainment value to the community, give us the opportunity to be able to reflect on the role that this community has played in our history, to include an educational component in the recreation activities that we provide. I just think that you really struck a nice balance with what it is that you chose to fund, and any questions that I had as to whether or not this effort would be able to lead to something of value to the community was loudly dispelled today. And so I just think that everyone that's been involved in the nuts and bolts of going through the process and those that have gone from concept to tangible results really deserves credit. So I think it's important to be able to express that viewpoint.
Thank you, and I appreciate that from your perspective because many of us are stuck down in the ruts of doing these things and projects and getting them going. So it's real helpful to have that perspective for this body and what it's all about. So again, Sean, thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to seeing more progress.
All right, thank you.
Jordan?
All right, so we're moving on. Thank you to all of the NOFA applicants that presented. We really appreciate you guys. We're moving on to steering committee advisory member and staff comments. So first we have Eric C. with the Department of Water Resources.
Okay, great. Jordan, you mind throwing the slides up? You know, I had a couple comments to make that I wanted to say before my presentation gets going. And I came on as the representative for the department about 2.5 years or so ago, and maybe 3 years of going back. And I can just say I'm very pleased to see the progress that this committee has had. I knew what the SBF was, and I certainly got the updates from my predecessor. But it's been a lot of fun seeing, going from the initial stages of receiving the funding and just seeing the whole process work out now. So I can say it's been really nice to see that and hearing what Tim had to say. I'd like to point out that, Tim was instrumental in getting that $3 million pot of money to this committee, back a few years ago. We don't have the FERC license yet, so we're really kind of operating in this interim time, and it was, these are advances against the Supplemental Benefits Fund. It's something that this fund really wasn't supposed to trigger until the new license was issued. So, I just want to say thank you, Tim, for supporting this, because ultimately the state water contractors are funding this part of this program. So, just wanted to point that out. It's been a lot of fun. So it's neat to see these things come to fruition. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort. So it's nice to see. Okay, I think we'll start with the slides now. My name's Eric C. I work here at the Oroville Field Division for the Department of Water Resources. Okay, this is an ongoing slide we have actually on our operations website. This is a forecast for Lake Oroville. It gets to be pretty easy to forecast where the lake's going to go between now and the end of the year when you get this far out. But right now the lake is, we're at about 787 today is the elevation of Lake Oroville. It's dropping about a little less than a foot a day right now. And so just kind of projecting out towards the end of the year, looks like we're going to be somewhere in the 770 range, 760, something like that. So the reason why there's two lines, these are just exceedance curves. It's the probability that you'll be at or above that elevation on a particular date. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. We'll be about between 760, 770 by the end of the year. This time of year, though, it starts to get a little bit difficult because you have to start predicting the weather. As soon as it starts raining, the lake could come up very quickly. So a lot of this is just based on historical averages. And this chart just shows the projection. This is actually a 10-day forecast. I actually prepared this slide for last week's presentation, but it just basically shows a very flat lake elevation. We're just going to keep creeping down until it starts raining. So the outflows for Lake Oroville right now are very steady, and as are the inflows. So the only thing we had an increase in recently our releases out to the rice fields. They had dropped off for about 6 weeks or so during the harvest. Now they've harvested pretty much throughout the valley and are in the process of flooding up for rice decomposition and waterfowl management. Next slide, please. Okay, and then this slide, just wanted to mention the flows to the Feather River right now through town, right here on the other side of the levee, which is where this picture was taken a couple of years ago. The flows are at 800 CFS. That's the low flow channel of the Feather River, and they're going to stay at that flow level. For the last several years, we've actually had higher flows and a lot of variability. But with our Thermalito power plant coming back online, we have a lot more flexibility now, so we can run water through the afterbay, generate electricity with it, and so the water levels in the low flow channel are going to be a lot more stable. So we're going to be at 800 CFS through the coming winter. The only thing that would change that at this point would be if we get into a flood operations, but the lake would need to come up quite a bit higher for us to get into that. So I don't expect that to happen until the winter time or springtime. Then the high flow channel, 2,450 is our flow to the high flow channel. And okay, so this slide, I've been providing updates with pictures of these different projects. I decided to kind of speed things up a little bit, just because we're getting so many of these projects completed now. So, but did want to just go down the list really quickly. These are projects that were triggered by the spillway event in 2017. We started implementing a series of recreation projects to offset the closure at the spillway boat ramp. So we implemented a shuttle service during that time period, and that has now been phased out because we have access back to the spillway boat ramp that I'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. We expanded the parking lot at Lime Saddle. We increased the size of the parking lot at the Bidwell Canyon Marina. We also completed a boat ramp extension at the Stage 1 boat ramp, which is the upper boat ramp at Bidwell. Those projects are all completed. We are in the process of designing an extension of the boat ramp at Enterprise up on the South Fork Arm. The Bidwell Saddle Dam project, that's been completed. We about doubled the size of that parking lot and added several new improvements. The Bidwell Canyon Stage 2 expansion, we expanded that parking lot, basically doubled the size of the parking lot and paved it. It was for those of you who are aware, it was a dirt parking lot, well, gravel on it, but, it was pretty dusty and wasn't the greatest parking lot because it was in the fluctuation zone of the lake. And so that's now paved. There's a little bit left that needs to occur on that project. We got pushed out because of the rising lake levels last spring. So there's a little bit more that needs to get done. That won't happen this year because the lake levels are not going to get low enough to expose that boat ramp parking lot to get that completed. So that's not going to occur until next year at the earliest. We have a couple of projects that we started for the marinas to improve access during low water periods. Again, because of the high water last year, we got pushed out of being able to complete those projects. We did partial construction at Lime Saddle and are needed to do some redesign for the project at Bidwell Marina. So we'll need to wait for low lake levels for that to happen. So I don't expect that to happen. Well, certainly won't happen this year, and it could be a couple of years before we actually could get to a point of low enough water to do those projects, which actually is a good thing. 'Cause that means we have higher lake levels. Then at the Loafer Creek area, we actually are in the process of constructing a new boat ramp facility out at the end of, if you know where Loafer Creek boat ramp is, on the point past the day use area, the swim area. We're going to be building a new boat ramp facility out there. So the first phase of that project is we're past design. We've actually gone out to bid. I think the bid opening is the 6th of November. So yeah, coming up in a couple of weeks, we'll actually do the bid opening. And just going through the contract process, we'll be doing the notice to begin work probably sometime in early December, late November, and they'll start construction before the end of the year. So that's going to be a two-stage project. We already know this year we're not going to be able to get the lower stage of that project done just because lake levels are too high. So, but the upper stage, we will be able to get that done, parking lot and the access road to it. And then we, just one last thing, we also expanded the parking lot at the regular, the currently existing Loafer Creek parking lot. We actually had expanded that back in 2017. So some of the other activities that DWR is doing, we are doing a series of fuel load management projects around our area. So for the first time, we actually brought in goats. Some of you have seen these around the county. They're used in a variety of different locations. We finally got them at Lake Oroville. And they really did a good job up there. It's a pretty low impact way to get your brush cleared. And so we had them for about a week or so, week and a half up in the Lime Saddle area. And another project, next slide please. This was just a couple of weeks ago over at Loafer Creek. If you lived in the area, you probably saw this. We put it out in our community updates and advertised it, but there's still a lot of people calling 911 and everything about this project. But this was just doing a controlled burn up there. So control burns are not, they're not something you can do at any time. The conditions have to be just right. CAL FIRE is, really good at this, but, you have to have the soil or the fuel moisture content needs to be at a certain level. You have to have obviously no wind or, the right kind of weather conditions. So we actually, we're planning on doing this a week or two prior to when we did it, but it got called off because the conditions weren't right. So if we had the ability, we'd do a lot more of this, but you don't always have those conditions. You can't just do this any time of the year, obviously. Wintertime, the fuels are just too wet and they don't burn very well. So it's kind of a narrow window, but we were able to get a burn in this year, so that was a good thing. We have a variety of projects going on in the area around Loafer Creek, and that was one of the big ones. And then some other projects or events that the department has been involved in this season was Salmon Festival. We also had other events, the Feather Fiesta Days, the Hooked on Fishing event, unfortunately was canceled because of some high water. We were all ready to go, and then right at the last minute they had to cancel it just for safety reasons with the kids. They just decided it'd be better to skip it this year, but that's a good event. And then of course the cast event that we have up at Lake Oroville and several other events. And lastly, this slide was really for Scott. About, I don't know, year and a half or so ago, several people remember that. He brought this up about the billboards along Highway 99. We're looking pretty shabby. So we looked into it. And actually, the billboards that are up there are a collaborative effort between us and the Chamber of Commerce. So we had to actually research it because they'd been there for so long. We had, at least I didn't have the I didn't know actually who was in charge of the billboard. So it is a collaborative project. So we finally got those skins put on. Certainly next time when they're going to get replaced, it won't take this long because we know a lot more about how to put these things up. But it wasn't just the skins this time. There's actually some damage to the signs, and they needed to have the backing refurbished. So we had to get that completed before we put the skins on it. So, anyways, but there's 2 signs with 2 sides on each one. So there's four skins we have up there, and so I might sneak this slide in next time just so Scott can see it to show that we can actually get something done. So, anyways, that was like my last slide. So, are there any questions?
Any questions from board members?
Yeah, I do. First of all, thank you for the billboards. That's a great improvement for Oroville. And thank you, Chamber of Commerce. Thank you.
We try.
I have a question for you, Eric. So I had talked to my general manager, Sean Robacher, about the cancellation of the hooked on fishing this year and the possibility of maybe moving it to the pond at the dog park.
Oh, okay.
Which I think is a more beautiful, better facility.
Yeah, there's a committee.
We looked at it several times
Yeah.
and we had issues with water temperature. Those fish will roll. So that was part of the reason why we went there, because we did.
So is that something that we could work proactively for the future to maybe create an environment for? Okay.
Every year we have to have a permit to do the event, and so and that's why we couldn't move it. Even if we had a chance to do it,
Sure.
to change it. We can monitor that water this summer and see to see if there's a possibility that might be a possibility in the future. That's why it makes it so difficult.
I'm just trying to have more events in our parks, and I think that's a better spot. It's bigger, it's larger, we can accommodate more people. And, well, we're working on that. So it's going to be new and developed, right, Sean? That's the plan.
When we looked at it years ago when we were trying to do it, the access was limited. There was a lot of bushes in the back.
Have you seen it lately?
No, it's
You need to go down there and take a look at it.
Yeah. It's,
And the other thing is that I can promise that we can go and monitor the water temperatures this summer of the time when the event takes place, probably 2 3 weeks afterwards. Because once you put the fish there, they're not gonna catch them all. And, you know, and that because there's no connection to the river. So there's a lot of things we can take a look at.
Okay.
I promise you we can monitor the
yeah, that's cool.
temperature that's out of it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
We'll try it again.
And Member Brett.
Eric, all these developments are wonderful, but we have had shut off of trails. And I'm aware of one new trail being built for temporary use, and then that was closed. So here close to town, we closed the trails. We're doing all this up around the lake, wonderful things, but the people here in town and down near Oroville, it doesn't look like we're doing anything for them. We close the trails, they can't even go run or hike or walk or jog. And there was in the settlement agreement a proposal to put car-top boat launching in the diversion pool. Wonderful idea. Gives you access to the diversion pool on the east side of the river. Whoa, close to town. Whoa, I walked from the railroad bridge. 11 minutes walk to the diversion pool. It's that close. It's right there. I don't see you doing anything. It's like we don't want anyone in there. And I don't understand it.
Well, actually, you remind me of something I forgot to mention about the spillway boat ramp and the trails over there. So first, I'll address your second comment about the diversion pool. That project is still there. It's just waiting, like dozens of other projects, for the license to get issued. When that gets issued, it'll trigger the new recreation plan, and we will build that project. This is at Lakeland Boulevard, and yeah, it's one of our front burner projects.
Why do these other projects come up and they all get funded because they're up on the lake, but down close to town, we got this beautiful area closed off and we don't fund a project there. That one we're gonna wait on.
Okay, well, those projects were built because of the spillway incident in 2017. It was to offset the impacts of closing this, because of the construction we had to do, we knew the spillway was going to be closed for a period of time. It was, two years it was closed. So we immediately went after addressing the impacts from losing our biggest boat ramp, which is boat launching, it's parking. So, the shuttle service was all about trying, because we knew there was going to be congestion at the other parking lots. So that, just as an example, we decided to start that shuttle service to try to facilitate faster launching and recovery. That's why it was boat ramps and parking lots. We did do the Bidwell Saddle Dam trailhead because we knew there was going to be trail impacts as well, and so that we went after that project, to look at that. But you're right. As far as the trails, we don't have them all opened yet. There is the connection trail from the diversion pool that goes up to the spillway area. Because that project or that trail is right through the construction zone that's still actively going on right now, that's the last one that was second to last one to reopen. Above the switch yard by Oroville Dam, that one is in the process of almost completed. There's a couple connections we need to make, but probably within the next, I think I asked Andy this question, maybe 2 months or so. That should be open again. So the last one remaining will be that one from the diversion pool up to the spillway, and we are in the process of getting ready to planning and getting the crew ready. So when the construction allows, they're going to be able to get that project completed as well. So we're well aware of that. Speaking of the spillway boat ramp, what I forgot to mention, so the spillway boat ramp is now open for launching on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. After the 12th of November, it's going to be open daily. We're actually going to be, because they're right now they're demobilizing that area. Spillway parking lot that had the construction village in there. They're fixing the pavement right now. They're repaving it, painting the lines on the for the parking and all that. So that's all going on right now. They're moving the construction village out of that area that it was in, and we built a new parking area. And if you've seen it up there on the left before you actually get to the spillway parking lot, we built a new trailhead parking lot there. So okay. So anyways, it's to access those trails up in the area around Potter Ravine.
Yeah.
Those are all open now. Excuse me. The access is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but as I said, after November 12th, that area will be open to daily usage. The entry hours are going to change. Right now, they're from 5 a.m. to 11 p.m. We're going to be going to a 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. for winter hours because time changed and everything else. So anyway, so that's what's coming with the spillway boat ramp. So yeah, we know the trails are the last thing. That's that one connector trail. That's going to be the last thing before we get back to full usage.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Appreciate that. It's always an interesting thing. I like to mention the fact that Oroville is one of the few communities in the whole state, or if not the nation, that has 5 major lakes and a river runs through it. And we don't think about that all the time, but I like to remind us all about that. And it'd be great as your construction projects come forward to get the word out to the media and whatnot, because that builds excitement. And all of them are, just the picture of the goats was a great one to have. For the folks to understand that expanding fuel management is a big deal, and I encourage that throughout the area. Even the city has a fuel management program of everybody's got to cut their weeds by, as of June 15th, I think it is, on an individual basis. So expanding that throughout the whole area, because that helps to eliminate other problems that come about with the fuel management. So good efforts there. What do we have next?
not used to these new mics. Tim Haynes had to leave, so no presentation from him. My SBF specialist was just a written report for you guys, just for your own reading. We have a few things in the correspondence, also some light reading for you guys. At the last meeting, there was a discussion about drafting a new letter to FERC. We had volunteered Dave Steindorf to do that letter and to draft it and to bring it back to us. In some back and forth communications with him, it was brought to my attention that they are unable to do that because of a pending 2017 letter of delay that they had signed, and many of the other entities in the room and involved in the settlement agreement have also signed it, and they believe it's still pending. That I have attached for you guys, and also a letter from 2017 that DWR wrote to FERC. So we read up on these. If we could come back at our next meeting with some knowledge of these, and to see if we, as a group, or if you would like the city to move forward with trying to draft a letter to FERC as well. That's kind of what was directed towards myself and Dave, that was what was needed. But we don't have enough people that haven't signed the delay letter to be involved.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Eric, do we have any news at all from the FERC issue, licensing?
No new news, other than I got an email from Dave. He said the reason why he wasn't going to be here today is he's in Washington, D.C. On, I think, some other FERC relicensing matters. Being American Rivers, they have a lot of these that they work through. So he said he was going to ask if he can get any intel from the people he's talking with about anything about Oroville.
Yeah.
So we'll see. He might have some information coming back, but other than that, I've heard nothing.
Well, I think he's more, I don't think we can get him off the river down at the run between Polga and the Feather River run is opened up. I saw some pictures of him running that section where they finally have allowed increased flows so that the whitewater rafters can use it. So, all right. Let's see. Oh, I should mention we have a new representative from the Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Mark Grover. Welcome to the meeting, Mr. Grover. I also want to mention that Chuck Reynolds is ill and he had to leave. That's why he had to depart. He got quite sick. And of course, Scott had another prior meeting. I would also like to add, please, thanks for adjusting to this new date change, because we have outside influences influencing everything we do, and I really appreciate lights on. After having mine off since Saturday, it's a new thing to see lights come on. In fact, it scared me when I walked into City Hall. I said, "What are all these lights about?" I'm not used to that. Any call for agenda items for the upcoming meeting in January from the members?
I'd like to see a report detailing what the value of the agreement was when it was signed by everyone but the county in 2011, the value of the agreement then versus the value of that same agreement now for us.
You're talking about value in terms of statistic and
Yes,
the numbers?
dollar
Dollars.
value.
Okay, yeah. It's probably reasonable to assemble. Anything else? I would just add on there the ongoing thing about FERC. I mean, I would put that on the agenda because maybe we can have some members that will have an idea about a letter for FERC to deal with. And I might ask, where are we at with the reimbursement to this body? How much money do we have, and when does it need to be renewed, and that kind of thing?
We currently have, still with DWR, we have 235,000. We draw 100,000 each year, so we have 100,000 for 2020 coming in. We have 100,000 for 2021 coming in, and then we have the remainder is, I believe, 35,000 with DWR. So we have technically 3 years with DWR funding. That last year being really small. Right now, you guys did put money into 200,000 into a revolving loan fund, which you guys could put out a NOVA for that if you'd like. I think you were open to just hearing proposals if people were interested in it, as well as the rest of the remaining funds are in reserve. So you guys have a little over 200,000 in reserve as well.
Okay, gotcha.
Go ahead. Member Brandt.
We have ad hoc committees for Feather River Conceptual Plan, Aquatic Committee, and Safety Patrol Committee. Me being a new member of this board, I'm unaware of who the committee members are. And
Yeah, none of those committees have been meeting because there hasn't been any need for them in the, actually since I've started. So those committees, we've changed hands so many times here on the steering committee. So I believe once those, if they are needed again, they would need to be reappointed.
well, I'm thinking, I'm just so pleased with what the city of Oroville is doing. And I think state parks and Feather River Recreation District need to be involved in this. And I think our ad hoc safety patrol committee maybe should be formed and meet and stay appraised of what's going on in the community, because it needs to be a joint effect. And the trail and the pathway and the park and the city and the memorial, Veterans Memorial, the whole thing ties together. And so I think that is a committee that probably should be meeting together.
Yeah,
And I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would agree too. Also, what I'd like to do is I'll give it to our chairman, Scott Thompson, to bring forward and make appointments before or by the next meeting.
Yeah, and this is Eric C., I would ask that DWR be included as well, because
Sure.
the Feather River Fish Hatchery is certainly part of that family of parks down along the river, so.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Eric, that's wonderful. I was surprised that State Parks wasn't here, because in the olden days, they were always had someone here, I
I
thought.
think they might be on
They
the fire
normally
over
are.
in
Yeah.
Lake County.
Oh, normally they are?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Normally, yeah.
Good.
I
Normally
think
send
they're-
at least one
Yeah,
representative.
Aaron's almost always here, but I think that would be a good example of the committee nature, because we have so many bodies between law enforcement and provision of services. I think that committee needs to have the same thing going on, and we've done good work in the past with that, and it's not a bad idea to have that committee continue, especially as one entity or the other does some improvements or something, and then things get reopened, like the diversion pool and what problems might come from that. So that I'll mention it to the chairman, and we'll come forward with that very soon.
Thank you.
It's a great idea.
So you're interested in, you said the Safety Patrol Committee?
We'll just call it the safety committee safety and security committee. I think it's probably a good term.
I would suggest, Jordan, that you just agendize all the committees and then the appointments can be made at the next
Yeah,
SBF meeting.
yeah, that works. Any other items from the body? Anyone like to come up, bring a quick item up?
I'd like to discuss the funding that's left available. I think at the next meeting, there probably needs to be a healthy discussion about how we're going to move forward. If there's only $200,000 left in the account, that's, next year at this time, I'm going to need to have some idea of what we're doing, because we need to figure out a way to fund this. I would suggest that you may pull back the $200,000 in the NOFA from the revolving loan. I don't think you've ever given a revolving loan at this point, and nobody's shown any interest in it.
Yeah.
You may move that back, use that money to continue the program, because I don't believe that there's going to be any license in the next 2 years. It's more financial advantageous not to have one.
Yeah. Well, I would agree to that. That'd be a good agenda-sized item to bring up. I also think that when we hear the projects we have, they're all running on the edge of their funding, and they may have another need. So to me, I think it's good to hold tight right now and consider something that might be an overrun to one of the projects we have, because those are funding. We want to make sure those projects are successful. So I wouldn't be interested in NOFA right now at this point.
You may need that money too with the quiet title action that needs to occur. I mean,
Right.
we don't know what that's going to bring, but that is an absolutely
Exactly.
key and essential thing that we get done to complete that trail.
Right.
And we need to support our Feather River Parks in that effort.
Sure.
And the city
Thank
is
you.
there and committed to that.
That's a good idea. Okay, I see none others to come up and bring something before the body. I would look toward adjournment and entertain a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
I'd second that.
Motion and second, all signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. So the meeting will be adjourned to the next regular quarterly meeting of the Supplemental Benefits Fund Steering Committee be held on Wednesday, January 22nd at 2 p.m. Thank you all. Nice for Tim Haynes to say that. Really nice for Tim Haynes to say that. That's what they're all funding, so they need to hear that.
Well, again, if we can work together.
Okay.